Thanks for coming. I'll answer any questions for you.
Go ahead, front row, Dave.
Urban, if something happened to JT Barrett and Joe Burrow had to go in the game, what's something right now you feel like he is competent at, very good at, maybe something he really needs to work at?
Pretty good. I don't think he's quite the athlete that JT is right now, but he's becoming a much better runner. His release night and day what it was. So I would probably lean on the tailback and then high percentage passes, but he's getting close to being game ready.
And then you guys have had a few scrimmages this spring. Is there one or two guys that have really stood out in every scrimmage?
Yeah, the most improved guys right now are Sprinkle, are James Clark. James is really coming on. It's about time too. He's a highly recruited guy with a lot of ability and a good person who just really taken this opportunity because, like I said, the four top guys, in theory, they might not be the four top guys, but they're not practicing at all. And that's not true. Curtis, Jace, Corey Smith, and
Noah Brown.
And Noah was really good out there today, running and doing stuff on the side. But James Clark's one of them. Draymond had his best day as a Buckeye today. Draymond, wants to get night and day from where he needs to be. A kid named Jay Sean had a good scrimmage that we're counting on. He's a little bit twitched up inside. We need to have him perform. And Marcus Ball had a really good day today. Those are guys just off the top of my head.
Back row middle, Steve.
Yeah, Coach, running back position out of the scrimmage on Saturday, who out of that group, those three guys, you've talked pretty good about them so far this spring, but who really seems to be kind of taking that step forward right now?
We're pass heavy right now on purpose, so I think next thing is still Briante and Mike are fighting it out. And the young guy has done a decent job, but he's not at the same level yet as Mike and Briante. So Mike and Briante are still, no one's separated themselves yet.
Front row, Bill.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk lately about the satellite camps. Could you give your opinion of the ban and what effect it will have?
I don't know. I just hate to see that. The biggest thing that I didn't realize that was part of it is that now the MAC schools can't come here. And I mean, probably hundreds of scholarships have come out of here to those young players. And I know my son's getting recruited now a little bit. You're like, what camps do you send them to? Not many kids can play at Ohio State, so don't send them or send them. And then, but now Bowling Green, you get a chance to watch them play. And once again, don't hit on when I was at Bowling Green, to Ohio State's campus, you get to see all these players. So I didn't realize that was part of the conversation about not. I wish they'd revisit that part of it. But once again, I think sometimes there's knee-jerk reaction because people complain and all that, and I get it. I get that. I think that's a slippery slope. But I'm not worried about the high level players because they're going to find a way to get where they got to get. I'm talking about there's a big chunk of players out there that deserve to play major college football, and I think I hope they revisit it. And I'm not saying what's right or wrong because I don't really know, but if you always think first about players, just like someone told me they passed the texting rule. But that's the most ignorant thing I've ever heard. Because they can't manage the coaches, they can't police the coaches. They fire the coaches that do it. Fire them. And make the penalty so absolute out of control that they won't do it. You'll never coach again in major college football if you on purpose text someone. Okay, move on to the next rule. But think about the student athlete first. And I think they need to revisit this because I did see some good stories. I read about a kid that never got a shot to play, but he went to, because he can't afford to, everything's on the player's dime right now. So it's going to be interesting how they keep revisiting that.
On a different note, Tim Beck talked to us last week and talked about how it's night and day, the way how comfortable he is this year versus last year. Could you evaluate how he did last year and what you see in him this year, what he needs to do?
Just okay. Just okay. And that he took over from a really valuable guy, and just okay. Expect more out of him. And our offensive staff in general, I think we have to do a better job than we did a year ago. I see it happening this spring. And but I see the growth of this offensive staff.
Far right over here, Austin.
Urban, is Saturday and the spring game, is it more important this year than some other years because of the youth?
Sure. Yeah, that's obvious answer is absolutely. And, the one thing that we're going to have, it's supposed to be great weather. I'm hoping we get 100,000 people. So that's another appeal to our fans to come on out. And this year, even more than last year, to see how some people, I want to see Joe Burrow perform in front of 100,000 people in the stadium. And I want to see Mike Weber perform in front of 100,000 people. They've never done it. On the defensive line, how's Draymond going to perform in a nice, loud environment chaos. And so I'm appealing to our fans to come out and support us for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's supposed to be a nice day to come out and watch your team play. We appreciate you coming out. And there's extremely, the value this year is greater than probably in our 4 years here, to see how these young players respond.
There have been other schools that kind of phased out games and have done practices. Have you considered that all in the past, or why is a game experience more important?
Well, it's, you don't want it for the fan, for us, number one, not the fans, but sometimes you get caught in those situations. And if it was 22,000, then yeah, just have a practice, because it doesn't matter. In that stadium, you put 12,000 people in there, of course, just running scrimmages, because it doesn't matter. What's the difference between out there? But we get, there's nothing like performing in front of 100,000 people, and for me to watch that. So I have that because you get injuries and you get depth issues. And we play with the offensive line for both sides are the same. They're just going to change the jerseys because I didn't want to not have that opportunity to play in front of a huge crowd.
Front row left, Mitch.
You talked last week about how JT was smarter than your staff. Can you talk about
I said that?
Yeah.
Not smarter than the head coach.
That's what you said. Can you talk about his development and where he is today, where you're seeing him today, and as opposed to,
Well, last year he didn't have spring practice. The year before, I'm not sure he had it either. I don't know, has he ever had spring ball here? Go back in the archives and think he's never been a quarterback in spring practice, you know that for sure. So he's having a great spring. It's not, we're changing some things on him that we felt fundamentally he wasn't where he needed to be last year for whatever reason. So it's, the word twitch comes up with JT a lot. He's a fast player that we need him to play as fast as he can. And what happens when you play with receivers that don't know what they're doing, that sometimes what we call one bad rep is worth 100 good ones. And so that body, if your body sees you have a bad rep because the receiver's too slow, he's not where he's supposed to be, you need 100 of those good reps to get your mind and body so when that happens in a game. So we're having them just, even if it's a bad receiver, throw the ball where you would throw it. And then I actually watch the film with the quarterbacks, receivers, tight ends in this room because we're so young and saying where the ball should be. And I noticed in the last week it's been much better. So he's a valuable player for us.
Front row left, Doug.
Urban, your answer on the recruiting stuff was so interesting. It's when the stuff came up with the travel for the families for the playoff, right? You had a very strong opinion on that, and things happened after that. How do you? I mean, you're a 3-time national champion. You've been in the college game for a long time. How do you try to balance when you are really trying to maybe facilitate change, or versus, I mean, you're trying to run a team and run a program. You can't be.
Well, that doesn't get in the way of that other stuff.
Right.
I said the texting thing's the most ignorant thing I've ever heard in my life.
What can you do? What can be done?
Just telling you guys how ignorant it is.
Okay.
and then always appealing to people making decisions because it's hard. You know, if they're making a decision because of coaches are upset about it, that's not the point here. Put a student athlete on that same committee and say, what do you guys think? You know, student athletes, I don't know all these, I can start giving names of committees and just another new committee, subcommittee, that subcommittee, that subcommittee. How many student athletes are on those? And ask them, what's your opinion of this? And listen to them. And if it's as strong as I saw, where some kids are saying, I don't know, if you take away this camp, those are opportunities away from players. Well, but these coaches don't like it, so that's okay. Listen to the student athlete, what do they have to say about it? And I think we learned our lesson with the families getting to go. Of course, my question is, why wasn't that done when they first brought out the college football playoff? So whoever has that checklist, number one, student athlete, then all the other stuff, building facilities and salaries, and if the commissioners' grandchildren get to go to the championship games or not, because they all do, right? But you tell me that the backup tight ends, then they can't go. It's just common sense, but why isn't that the number one thing? How does the student athlete feel about this rule? Do you really want text messages from 100 universities on your phone when you come out of school? Maybe the student athlete, the ones I know, what? No, I don't want to hear from these schools. Now you're going to get them. Some intern is going to be punching text messages on your phone, and you're going to get. Maybe you can block numbers and all that, but that's just too hard, right? Because it's easier on coaches. Or maybe it's easier for the enforcement because they just can't, because people are doing it. I guess it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird. It's like the NCAA doesn't make sense to a lot of people, but most of
And
the
I
time.
think they're trying, this is not anti-NCAA.
No, and I understand that, but it's complicated stuff. But we can do, your voice, I would imagine, and your voice
I think there's a
matters.
few coaches out there, I probably agree with that don't get asked a lot. Which I think is kind of curious too.
And then a separate topic, you had mentioned Tracy Sprinkle as one of the guys who's really standing out this spring. For any guy who's had stuff off the field in the past, how do you, we know what happened with Tracy, how do you, is a guy done with that and it's done? Is it in the back of your mind and he has to sort of like regain, how does he regain the trust of you and the staff and his teammates?
Just over time, Marcus Ball's another one. There's guys that have issues and they've grown. Sometimes they're 17, 18-year-old issues. Sometimes they're character flaws. If we think it's a character flaw, then eventually we've got to move them on. We try to change guys, but we don't, why did you keep that kid? Because we're trying to help change him. And, Tracy's grown out of that mess that he was in, and I found out exactly what happened. Maybe people here don't know, but that's not important. So they're on probationary status unless they start moving away, but it's always going to be there. It's not you just forget it, and this university doesn't forget it either. So you got to keep straight.
Front row left, Blake.
Urban, you and your staff have talked a good bit about some of the early enrollees this spring, Austin Mack, Michael Jordan, Antonio Williams. Have you seen what you expected to see out of them this spring, and how anxious are you to see
they're
them
much
on
better. I made
Saturday?
a point. One of the players came in the other day and said, "Do you really enjoy coaching?" And I said, "Yes." And I go, "No." And I go, "Yes." And I go, "No." And then so I had an emergency team meeting just about 10 minutes after that, and it was I just had a player ask me. I answered yes. I love coaching. A good kid, good student, good guy that does everything right. Austin Mack. So we had 4 of them come in: Michael Jordan, Austin Mack, Jonathan Cooper, and Antonio Williams. The answer: how do you like coaching those guys? I love them. They're over 3-point students. I don't know if they missed a class yet. And they do everything right. And I can give you a list of names, but I don't like coaching those guys. No, matter of fact, I have a hard time being around them. And we try to be honest with our players because we want everybody to be like that. So they're much more than we even thought they would be. Because you never know what you get. Sometimes high school coaches and people tell you they're the greatest people in the world, and you get here and they're not. So we try to change. But those kids are doing great. I put Malik Barrow into that too because he's really doing, but he's been hurt.
And final questions, Tim?
Urban, how are you going to play the quarterback Saturday? Is JT going to play a lot? Will he be in a black jersey? I mean, I would think you thought that through a little bit.
Yeah, I think we'll let Steven and Joe play a little bit live. I might bring the jerseys out to cover them up a little bit, but those guys have been live pretty much throughout the spring. That's a big part of who we are, how they really, not who we are, how college football is, how good that quarterback is, escape pressure and all that. JT will play. How much to be determined, and really we haven't even got there yet. We want to really have it Monday and Wednesday. I'll let you know more later in the week.
Well, you kind of touched on this a while ago, and I wouldn't clear exactly what you said, but with the offensive line wise, will you have 2 separate offensive lines, and they'll have added?
Well, I think we'll have enough for a full team Wednesday night.
Yeah.
We'll give you that information after Wednesday.
How much had you met or been around? I would think Will Smith was around maybe when y'all played down in New Orleans a couple of years ago and stuff. And just, what was just your thoughts on him? I'm not sure how well you knew him, but just what were your thoughts yesterday when you got the news and what that means?
I mean, Luke Pickle sent me a text. Coach Pickle knows him as well as anybody. I believe I met him. Was a very unassuming, didn't expect the world to stop when he walked in the room, and I guess just a wonderful guy and all that, wonderful family. So we had a moment of silence and lifted up the family in prayer this morning, and they're just tragic. And then we use it just like there's some legal issues across the country. So we spent the first 10 minutes of today's meeting talking about some issues that are going on in college football, and then also, press pause, in the situations. And I don't know the whole situation, but you try to educate your team any chance you can.
And let's say, are you going to like literally actively try to get that rule changed that Kent State MAC schools can be at your camp like they have been? They've been coming to this camp
Through
forever.
spring football, and then we
Yeah.
might decide, but we got to get ready for Wednesday's practice. I hope they reconsider it. I hope after an article when you guys do it, they will call and ask our opinion. Thanks.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.